How about something a little more uplifting? Welcome to Positive Listicles, and today we are counting down on the top 7 positive news stories of 2021. These are crazy times we are living in, and these 7 news stories will give you hope for the remainder of 2021. So here are the top 7 positive news stories of 2021. Number 7. A kind doctor forgave $650,000 in medical bills for cancer patients to kick off 2021. If a cancer diagnosis is a patient's worst nightmare, not being able to afford life-saving treatment runs it a close second. One oncologist recently forgave all his patients' outstanding debts, easing his patients' pain a bit to kick off 2021. Dr. Omar Atiq founded the Arkansas Cancer Clinic in 1991. Over the years, countless patients received everything from diagnostics to radiation and chemotherapy at the Pine Bluff facility. In February of 2020, the clinic closed due to staffing shortages. At the time, there was close to $650,000 outstanding patient debt on the books. Dr. Atiq attributed the large sum to the fact that no patient was ever denied treatment, regardless of whether or not they could pay. After the clinic closed last year, Dr. Atiq attempted to settle the debts. He soon realized that many of the folks he treated didn't have the means to pay, especially with so much added financial hardship brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. So with the blessing of his wife Mehreen, he simply elected to stop asking. And to bring in 2021, Dr. Atiq sent out cards to nearly 200 of his former patients that read, "The Arkansas Cancer Clinic was proud to have you as a patient." Although various health insurances pay most of the bills for the majority of patients, even the deductibles and co-pays can be burdensome. The clinic has decided to forego all balances owed to the clinic by its patients. Even though he is no longer treating his patients, Dr. Atiq found one final way to practice some kindness and compassion on their behalf. Number 6. With a natural disaster in Texas, this furniture store owner heroically offers his store as shelter again. Texas has seen more than its fair share of weather-related calamities. When this winter storm Uri took out the power grid, leaving the state in shambles, one valiant businessman stepped up to make sure his Houston neighbors would have a place to shelter from the cold. Over the course of a 72-hour period, Jim Mattress Mac McIngvale opened 2 of his gallery furniture locations as impromptu warming stations. According to the store's website, Mattress Mac and his crew provided 3,000 plus meals and overnight accommodations to more than 700 members of the Houston community. But this isn't Mattress Mac's first storm-related rodeo. In 2005, he welcomed refugees from Hurricane Katrina, and in 2017, he gave succor to victims of Hurricane Harvey. While the store has a diesel-run generator to provide electricity, with only a single functioning water pipe, plumbing became a critical issue. Ensuring COVID-19 protocols were followed added another layer of complexity to the situation. McIngvale and his staff rose to the occasion, rigging a solution to meet the plumbing demand and also ensuring that once visitors were wearing masks, they observed proper social distancing before setting in to fill up on warm meals, watch some TV, and get some much needed rest. For anyone who'd like to help an angel out, McIngvale has set up a GoFundMe campaign to help alleviate the ongoing storm-related impact on his community. Number 5. 10 years after Fukushima nuclear disaster, 2 men are still living there taking care of everyone's pets. When clouds of radiation began streaming into the air around the Fukushima nuclear plant, 160,000 residents were told to simply cut and run. However, it seems only 159,998 residents listened. The other 2, Naoto Matsumura and Sake Kato, remained. Evidently, the city possessed not one, but 2 men whose love of animals cracked through the innate sense of self-preservation, men who would give up everything rather than consigning others' beings to starvation. Living within the 12.5-mile exclusion zone around the damaged reactor, the 2 men unrelated to one another, both living alone while taking care of dozens of stray animals that were left behind when the evacuation order was given. 57-year-old Kato has 41 cats who live with him in his home in the mountains, along with a stray dog he adopted named Pochi. Kato says he will remain with his cats and ensure they are comfortable all through their lives. Kato's generosity isn't restricted to his own animals, and he has taken to feeding local wild boars considered pests by the government. Matsumura left the city at first, but returned shortly after for his own animals. Once he returned, the now 55-year-old realized that everyone else's pets and livestock was still there. So he began taking care of a broad community of animals, including pigs, cats, dogs, ponies, ostriches, and cows. He funds the feeding of the animals through local donations and keeps people up to date with news on his blog, posted by using solar power, though he lives without steady electricity or running water. Everything both Kato and Matsumura are doing is technically illegal, and police have ordered them both to leave the area. Yet they seemingly couldn't be less bothered by the government's demands, and both plan to stay there with the animals come what may. Number 4. 70-year-old grandpa becomes oldest person to row across the Atlantic, and he raised over £1 million for Alzheimer's. A 70-year-old grandfather has successfully rowed a boat unassisted across the entire Atlantic Ocean, and he did it for others. As part of a challenge to raise money for research on Alzheimer's treatments, Frank Rothwell dedicated the extreme feat to his brother-in-law Roger, who succumbed to the disease during Frank's crossing. A little more than £1 million was raised by almost 10,000 different donors, including a doubling of the first £500 from Iceland Foods Charitable Foundation. Requiring 18 months of hard training, the entire row took 8 grueling weeks for Rothwell to travel from La Gomera in the Canary Islands on December 12th to the finish line 3,000 miles away in Antigua on February 6th. In a statement, Hilary Evans, Chief Executive of Alzheimer's Research UK, said, "We are honoured to have such amazing support from Frank. His courage and determination helped him to complete his epic challenge and raise £1 million for dementia research. The amount will be a huge benefit to the groundbreaking research conducted by Alzheimer's Research UK as they continue their mission to bring about life-changing treatments for people affected by dementia." Number 3. Lone Capitol police officer lured rioters away from Senate chambers. The hero likely saved lives. A US Capitol police officer is being hailed as a hero for cleverly steering a mob away from the Senate chambers during the riots on 6th January. Footage shows Officer Eugene Goodman all alone and just a few steps ahead of rioters. They are waving Confederate flags and shouting at him as they chase him up a flight of stairs inside the Capitol building. Goodman can be seen covertly looking at the entrance of the Senate just a few feet away, then he lures the intimidating rioters in the opposite direction, risking his life. In the video from HuffPost Igor Bobik, which you can watch here, Goodman can be heard shouting "second floor" into his radio, alerting other officers that rioters are approaching the chamber area and the people who are in there. Just minutes later, authorities managed to seal off the chamber, keeping the people hiding inside safe. Goodman, a veteran of the US Army who served in Iraq, is being praised for his bravery and decisive action in what must have been a harrowing situation. A legislation was introduced to Congress to bestow Goodman with the Congressional Gold Medal for his brave efforts, and he also got a promotion for the presidential swearing-in. He escorted Vice President Kamala Harris to the inauguration venue at a swearing-in ceremony. He was seen alongside Harris as she arrived at the Capitol to take her oath and leading her to the presidential platform before the swearing-in ceremony began. Number 2. Scientists have a genius way to turn face masks into roads. The idea of billions of people going through few masks a week during this pandemic definitely rings alarm bells. But a team of researchers in Melbourne, Australia may have the solution. They've discovered that adding millions of discarded face masks to road paving mixtures would actually lower the cost of the road while diverting billions of them from landfill. Just 1 kilometer of road would need 3 million masks, and the polypropylene plastic used to make single-use surgical face masks also increase the flexibility and durability of the road. G. Lee and other scientists of Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology and Melbourne Technical College published a paper stating that if the percentage of damaged roads in Washington state were repaired with the RCA mask mixture, it would reuse nearly 10 billion masks, sparing American landfills hundreds of millions of tons of trash. With 6 billion masks being used every day, this genius breakthrough is just the positive we need. Number 1. Dominican Republic approved bill to end child marriage. Child marriage was legal in the Dominican Republic until 2020, which may come as a surprise to us. Indeed, the Caribbean nation has the highest rate of child marriage in Latin America, but not perhaps for much longer. On 6th January, the country's president Luis Abinader approved a bill that eliminates all legal grounds for child marriage and safeguards the rights of children, particularly girls. The International Justice Ministry and NGOs said that the new law stipulates that people under 18 years old will not be able to marry under any circumstances. Previously, children could be forced into marriage as long as there was parental consent and permission from a judge. Multiply the positivity by sharing these sweet stories with your friends on social media.